All right, get your tentacles around this. So apparently we've got the most fuel that we've ever had in the last 15 years. But the Prime Minister has just flown overseas to Singapore to try and secure more fuel. I don't know about you, but something's not adding up here. I find it a bit strange and a bit weird, to be honest, that there's a disconnect between what we're being told and what we're actually seeing at our service stations or our surveys or the gas stations. We've had the government, primarily the Prime Minister, come out in the last couple of days saying, hey, look, we're in the best position we've been for 15 years. We've got all this fuel coming out our ears. But that's not necessarily lining up to what we're actually seeing with our own eyes. I did last episode about a little bit of gaslighting from both sides of politics, and I kind of got the impression that the devil's in the details with this. So we're going to watch a quick little video, the press conference from what Albo said, do some thinking out loud. So by all means, throw it in the comments if you don't agree with me. If you do agree with me, what your thoughts are, because I'm quite curious. Like I've said before in previous videos, I don't know everything. I'm literally thinking out loud. So I'd love your opinion on this.
In 2022, 53 days before you became Prime Minister, you talked, please indulge me, in your budget. In your budget reply speech about fuel security.
I originally thought this video was what we call a Dorothy Dixer, where someone basically says, hey, look, you're fantastic. I'm going to ask you a pre-arranged question. And this may be that case. Do let me know. I do my spidey senses tingle about from that perspective. But I kind of feel to myself that the way he reacts to this journalist compared to previous journalists that we have seen the government respond to, if that makes sense, it's more welcome.
Security, you said. Yeah. We must be self-reliant. We need a government with a real plan to ensure supply, using Australian-flagged vessels with Australian seafarers in strategic fleet and a fuel reserve that's accessible. You said we need a government that looks forward and plans ahead, and Australia that stands on its own 2 feet. 4 years into your Prime Ministership, you're now travelling to Singapore to shore up fuel supply. Is that a sign that you failed in that aspiration?
No, it doesn't at all. We have the largest reserve.
So that mightn't have been I suppose, a planted question, rewatching it, but he's right. And this is what I've been saying for the last couple of videos that I have done on this fuel crisis within Australia, is that we need a government that's forward-thinking. Push it further out. Don't necessarily stick to these 24-hour news cycles. We need long-term planning, long-term solutions.
In 15 years. The largest reserves in 15 years. We've made sure, on our watch, no refineries have shut.
So the largest reserves in 15 years. Okay, cool. What doesn't make sense is that if we've got reserves, and yes, I know we need to keep reserves as part of our reserve bucket. I would think that we shouldn't be putting farmers, we shouldn't be putting remote localities, we shouldn't be putting, like the emergency services, is what we talked in previous videos, like your nurses, your ambulance drivers, your police, and all those different things, your fireys, are in a precarious state because of wording and language and all these different things. This wording here, that reserve wording, doesn't fill me with confidence, for the simple fact is that it might be saying, well, yes, we've signed a dotted line to say, yes, we've got 15 years worth of fuel coming down range. Well, yeah, the best fuel reserves in 15 years coming down range, but it doesn't necessarily got access to it. As we've seen in the previous video last couple of days, that Angus Taylor, which was the previous government's energy minister, was actually storing fuel or oil in the United States of Texas. And what I did some more research is that there was no guarantee that we were actually going to get access to that oil if there was an emergency such as this. So keeping it offshore doesn't give us that certainty either. So it's strange. Please let me know what you think, because it's starting to do my head in, the wording and the verbiage and all these different things that don't necessarily line up from a common sense perspective.
We've made sure that they're secure going forward as well. And when it comes to the strategic fleet, that's something that's been considered by the government. We're working those issues through to make sure that they're delivered. That's an important component. I stand by those comments. We're continuing to make sure the whole Future Made in Australia agenda is about resilience, is about our sovereignty, and we continue to work across the board, whether it be fuel security or other issues as well, to make sure that we can deliver on that. Thanks very much.
Cool. So he did mention the 2 refineries, which we've spoken at length about before. The reason why they haven't closed down is because they're heavily government subsidised, and I've done a lot of digging around into that. But if you're still here at this point, I really, really, really thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for persevering with me. I'm trying to shorten the episodes down just to make them more punchy, less fluff and all those different things. So if you have got this at this point, please consider liking, please subscribing to the video. It does help me. A lot of international audience space. I've had a lot of Canadians and a lot of Americans leaving me comments, and I would absolutely love for you to let me know what it's like in your countries at the moment. From my perspective, and going back to the large man abroad video that I've talked about before, is that the optics are a different perspective from here. So me personally, I see Mark Carney on the TV. I think he's very well spoken. I think he's very professional, and I do have some admiration for him as much as I can for a politician. However, I'm not too sure from a Canadian perspective. So like I said, comparing obviously us, the US and Canada, probably Mark Carney be the Prime Minister. I'd love to represent Australia, but like I said, that's only from my perspective. And by all means, please let me know in the comment section below if I am falling into that trap of being fed an image from one perspective. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. The next video will come out in the next couple of days, will be primarily where this fuel's coming from, because I don't really understand if the Strait of Hormuz is closed and the fuel, from what I've been told, that these fuel tankers travel at the speed of a bicycle. So I kind of want to delve into, is there something nefarious with where our oil is coming from? But until then, we'll catch you next time. Thank you, bye.